Hi everybody, I'm going to talk about stress management today. Stress management has evolved over the years and much reference is now made to resilience. I think for me they're very much the same thing. The skills that we use are the same. If we can manage our stress, then actually we can then help and build our resilience. For me the key to that is still self-awareness, and I will keep repeating that over and over. I think by being able to say what we're good at and not so good at, what we like doing and don't like doing, we can actually be more articulate and communicate differently. We can influence conversations more assertively, and by doing that we can manage our stress. So for me, stress and resilience are quite interchangeable. So what makes you stressed? Is that day-to-day working life? Is that something like a health difficulty? Money can cause us stress. Family relationships can cause us stress. Personal relationships, friendships, colleagues. Lots of different aspects to what can cause us stress. Two psychiatrists in the 1960s put together a scale, the Holmes and Rahe scale, and you can still access that online. They actually then scored lots and lots of different aspects of stress. The death of a loved one being that kind of top score. So some of the things that we might experience will include personal injury, work pressures, health problems, as I said before, sometimes too much to do and not enough time, although the flip side of that is not enough to do. Things that you feel you should do. Should, for me, is quite a stupid word. I should get more exercise. And some days I do, and other days not so much. So just be careful of thinking I should. That just be a little bit mindful of how that sits in your head. For me, being on the road and other road users is always quite stressful. I actively try and avoid being on the motorway at peak times, because that does nothing for my stress level. And just because I know about stress, it doesn't mean that I don't get stressed. Of course I do. Of course I do. But it just means that I possibly see it coming and avoid some of those situations if I possibly can. Christmas, Easter, family, holidays. Some people would say those are great words. Other people, oh no, that's quite difficult. So what causes you stress might not cause somebody else stress. And equally, somebody might talk to you about feeling quite stressed and anxious, and you go, oh, that wouldn't bother me. But for an individual, it's very valid, and that's really important, I think. The definition of stress talks about a feeling of pressure or tension, experienced when the demands made on an individual exceed the resources available to deal with those demands. So the resources available, I think, are really, really important. Sometimes you might get through a difficult situation and think, I've absolutely kicked that, no problem, I've really, really dealt with it. And other times you might really, really struggle and think, I can't handle this quite as well as I might. And things like physical health problems, mental health problems might have a different aspect on that. Difficult family struggles, financial difficulties, they can all have a real bearing on your ability to deal with a stressful situation. So just sometimes think, if you sometimes think, I'm not handling this as well as I think I might be, possibly there's something else that's different layer, and that's making it difficult for you to manage a stressful situation. If you say these days, I'm feeling stressed, I used to do that in the bank years ago, I feel stressed, and somebody looked at me and said, we all feel stressed. Oh, okay. It didn't mean anything. I started to use the expression, I'm struggling, and that seemed to resonate more with people. Because on a scale of 1 to 100, I'm stressed. It doesn't mean anything. You could be at 1 and you could be at 99. It doesn't really express exactly where you're at. So you might need to find different ways of how you express that. Particularly to loved ones and people that you care about. It's important that they really understand, I think, where you're at. So think of some of the words. Struggling seemed to be a word that would for me, resonated with other people. We experience stress because as human beings, as we evolved, our subconscious has a stress response that in those times was so that we could go into that fight or flight stress response, because at that time we were fighting animals either for food or so that they didn't kill us. So it's completely right that we have this stress response, and there are very physical things that happen, that you detect a danger, and then your adrenal glands kick in and adrenaline kicks around your body, your heart rate then speeds up, digestion stops because it's less important, blood moves to your muscles ready for that fight or flight response. And at times when we needed either to kill animals for food or because they were going to kill us, that was entirely appropriate. And now, because the photocopy is broken, that's less appropriate. But the response is still exactly the same. So some of the conditions that we can start to see, if you continue to experience that stress response over and over and over, then link in to some of that physiological changes, those physiological changes that we experience. Some of the conditions that we might experience are things like heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, very, very much linked with stress. And if you think the stress response is stopping and starting your process of digestion, possibly that's why, then you might struggle with things like IBS. Skin conditions such as eczema and psoriasis can be stress related. Rheumatoid arthritis, headaches, migraine, lots of different conditions can be associated with stress. They're not necessarily all just about stress, but I think stress can have an impact on some of those conditions. So there's sort of two aspects to that side of things. Some of the symptoms of stress that we might see, you might see people get kind of over irritable, be quite impulsive. You might see people have nervous tics. I have a tick in my eye that if it starts, I think, okay, that's a bit of a sign for me to think, why am I getting stressed? What can I do about it? Sometimes we can start and struggle with our speech and sort of stutter and just become more nervous in our speech. And sometimes then we can just feel very tired, have difficulties sleeping, lots of different elements of kind of the impact that stress can have on us, but very, very significant over a period of time. We can see changes in mood, such as aggression, bad temper, moodiness. On the other scale of things, we might see depression or fatigue and low mood. Lots of different aspects of how you can be affected by stress. And I have a theory that possibly more extroverted people, because they like to wear their heart on their sleeve a bit more, they are more likely to outwardly show those signs of stress through aggression and moodiness. Whereas a more introverted person, because we turn that in on ourselves, we then are probably more likely to struggle with low mood, fatigue and depression. And maybe there is a difference in terms of the personality types and how we actually then manage our stress. So in terms of managing our stress in the 10-point plan, I'm going to put a handout on the website in the useful information section, so you can see the actual plan itself, and there's a space on the side of it so that you can make any notes if you want to print it out in terms of what does that make me think I might need to do. But so I'll quickly go through the plan, but the handout is in the useful information section if you want to go back to that and look at it with a bit more detail. So number one is to try and keep perspective. Sounds very easy. We can't influence the events, the situations that we're in and the things that happen to us. But by influencing our response, then actually we can influence the outcome. This does take practice, and it sounds very simple, but if somebody crashes into my car and I then completely lose my temper and get out and I shout and I storm about, then there is a huge amount of adrenaline going through my body and I'm highly agitated and I'm not very happy. And I have to do what I have to do, and I exchange details with the person, and I go on, and my day is lousy. If somebody bumps into my car and I put my head down and go, okay, I just need to get out and try and be calm and go and exchange my details with the person, it's still irritating, it's still hugely annoying, But actually then I can influence possibly the rest of my day by trying to stay calm. So if you can, try and think about your response to a situation and how you can control the outcome by staying calm and more in control. Number 2 is accept that you always have choices and be assertive in how you communicate those. In a work situation, if you're having difficulties at work, you have 3 choices. You can do nothing, you can ask for help, or you can make your own decisions in terms of what you're going to do next. So you do always have choices. The thing is with stressful situations is it can become quite difficult and you can feel as if you kind of backed into a corner. But actually you do always have choices. Try and remember that. Number 3, take responsibility for what you want to happen. If you are trying to eat really healthily and maybe drink less alcohol, then make sure that the right things are in the house. And if you don't do the shopping, you might need to start and do the shopping, or you might need to express that to somebody. It isn't anybody's decision but yours, so you need to take responsibility for the things that you want to happen. Number 4 is to support your own values behaviourally, which is a very grand way of saying, if you're struggling in any way, keep doing the things that you like doing. So if that is going for a walk, or going to salsa on a weekend, or going for a nice meal in a country pub, keep doing those things. It's very easy when you're feeling stressed to actually then stop and not do those things, and it sends a very strong message to our subconscious mind that actually everything is very negative. So as much as sometimes you probably don't want to do those things, try and push yourself to do them anyway, and give your subconscious a message that it is important and it's still worth doing those positive things for yourself. And that hopefully will help you come out of those difficulties more quickly, because you're reinforcing the positives in your own mind. Number 5, learn to laugh honestly at yourself. I used to be terrible at this, and I'm a bit better now, and I use different words. Whatever is a good word. For me, banana is a good word. What a banana. And I have a lovely friend who uses the word hilarious and delightful. So some of those words you might find, if you get into a situation you just think, ugh, just use some words that try and make you laugh along to that situation, if that's doable. Number 6, reward yourself for your achievements. If you've had a really difficult day and you've got through it, what are you going to do at the end of it to say, well done? Because if we just trudge along and don't do anything nice for ourselves, then we are going to get a very negative mindset. So if you've had a really great week, you've worked really hard, go and think about, maybe talk with partner, talk with family and friends, what are we actually going to do then to recognise that and to reward that as a good week's work? A good week's work should be rewarded. It isn't just standard stuff. So it is, again, about just making your mindset more positive. 7, remember that your personal values are personal. Just because somebody else says something that doesn't resonate with you, that's personal to them. And equally, what is important to you is very personal to you. If you find yourself struggling with other people's opinions, just move away. You and your friends know what your values are. It's likely with your friends that your values are similar. And so when you're thinking about your stress, think about the things that are important for you to do. Don't worry about what anybody else tells you, because their values might be different. Think about what's important for you and what you need to do. Number 8, have positive aims rather than negative ones. So aim to be more relaxed instead of less stressed. Aim to be healthy and fabulously fit instead of on a diet. So it's just subtle, again, giving more positive messages to your subconscious mind and getting you through the day. Number 9, live by the 80-20 rule. If I'm looking to lose weight and I lose 80% of that weight, good for me. I will need to at some point do the other 20%, but don't just focus on that last bit that you haven't been able to do quite yet. It's not that you haven't done it, you haven't done it yet. Focus on the 80, reward yourself for your achievements and keep that more positive mindset. And finally, number 10, understand that there are only 3 types of problem. 1, problems that you can resolve yourself. 2, problems that you need some help to resolve. And 3, problems that you can do nothing about. And sometimes you have to cut those loose. They might be annoying you, but if you can't do anything about it, you just have to cut those things loose. So that's my conversation about stress management today. Thank you for listening. The next video is about our introduction to personality types. Have a great day. Bye.